You ever notice how hospital ceilings all look the same? White, cracked in the corners. Fluorescent lights humming like they're whispering secrets you're not supposed to hear. I was staring at one of those ceilings when my mother told me I wouldn't be attending my sister's wedding. Let me rewind. My name is Allura. I'm the quiet daughter, not the dramatic one, not the shining one. Not the family brand. I'm the one who listens, the one who remembers, the one who calculates. And 3 weeks before my younger sister Naomi's luxury wedding, I was in a hospital bed with an IV in my arm, monitors beeping softly beside me, and a phone buzzing on the metal tray. Ooh God, the irony. See, I had collapsed at work. Exhaustion, they said, severe stress response. My body basically staging a silent protest against the life I'd been living. And while I was lying there trying to process how I'd ignored my own limits for years, my mother walked into my hospital room holding wedding invitation samples. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She didn't sit down. She stood at the foot of my bed and said, Allura, we finalized the seating chart. I blinked. That's good, I said. She adjusted her purse on her shoulder. Naomi thinks it's better if you don't attend. Silence. You know that sound hospital machines make when they spike slightly? Beep, 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 beep. That was the only reaction in the room. I didn't cry, I didn't shout. I just looked at her. Because I fainted? I asked quietly. She sighed like I was the inconvenience. It's just you've been unstable lately. Naomi doesn't want drama on her day. Unstable? Ooh shit. I was in a hospital bed because I'd been covering half the wedding costs. But I was unstable. Let me explain something. Naomi was the golden child, social media princess, engagement photos in Tuscany, sponsored bridal content, smile always ready. I was the quiet one. I worked in compliance and financial risk auditing for corporate firms. I made very good money, but I didn't post about it. I paid quietly. I solved problems quietly. I funded emergencies quietly. And apparently I was being removed quietly too. My mother finally sat down, leaned closer, and lowered her voice. Her fiancé's family is very particular. They value presentation. Presentation. I looked down at my hospital gown, IV in my arm, hair messy, face pale. Oops, I wasn't aesthetically aligned. You'll understand one day, she said gently. Sometimes it's better to stay behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. That's where I'd lived my entire life, and in that moment something shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just internally, a click. Let's rewind further. 2 months before the hospital, Naomi called me crying. Ooh God, Allura, the venue doubled the deposit. I can't lose this place. It's perfect. It's where influencers get married. I transferred $18,000 that night. No contract, no discussion, family. 3 weeks later. Another call. The designer dress I want isn't covered by the sponsorship. It's an upgrade. I paid half. Why? Because I believed in loyalty, because I thought blood meant something, because I thought if I kept giving, one day they'd choose me. Ooh God, was I naive? Back to the hospital. After my mother left, I stared at my phone. I opened the wedding website. My name was removed from the bridal party section, not even listed as sister of the bride. Just gone. Ooh shit. That's when the nurse walked in. She looked at me, then at the monitor. You okay? I smiled. Yes. And I meant it, because something cold had settled inside me. Clarity, you see, being the quiet daughter doesn't mean being weak. It means observing, and I had observed everything. Naomi's fiancé, Carter, had a family business, real estate development. But here's what most people didn't know. I had once audited one of their affiliated companies. Risk discrepancies, over-leveraged assets, debt disguised as expansion. Ooh God, they weren't as high profile as they pretended. But I never said anything because family, because I didn't want to embarrass Naomi. Because I thought protecting her mattered. But while I was protecting her, they were protecting their image, and I wasn't part of it. 2 days later, still in the hospital, Naomi finally called me. Her voice was overly sweet. Hey sis, how are you feeling? Stable, I replied. Pause. So mom told you? Yes. Another pause. I just think it's better this way. You've been intense lately. Intense? Ooh shit. I fainted from exhaustion, Naomi. Well, exactly, that's not the vibe we're going for. The vibe. A wedding was a vibe, my health was an inconvenience. And that's when I stopped trying to defend myself. Because when people show you who they are, believe them. The next morning, I requested a full copy of all wedding invoices that had been processed through my accounts. Because here's the thing about being in financial compliance. You document everything, and as I reviewed the statements, ooh God, unauthorized upgrades, hidden vendor charges, floral enhancements billed under my consulting firm's account. Total amount transferred. $64,300. Oops, that wasn't a contribution, that was an investment, and I was no longer invited to the return. That's when I decided something, if I wasn't part of the wedding. I would be part of the truth. Fast forward 1 week. I was discharged from the hospital, but I didn't go home. I checked into a private recovery suite instead. Silence. No family, no group chats, just me and my laptop. Ooh God, it felt different, not broken, not sad, focused. I started pulling public records. Carter's family company filings, debt schedules, property liens, the numbers didn't lie. Their empire was floating on borrowed time. And Naomi, she had signed a prenuptial agreement drafted by Carter's attorneys. I'd reviewed a copy months earlier at her request. She didn't understand it, but I did. Ooh shit, if that company collapsed. She would absorb personal liability through joint lifestyle guarantees. In simple terms, she was marrying into risk, huge risk, and I was the only one who understood it. And they removed me from the wedding. 3 days before the ceremony, I received a message from Carter. Hey Alara, heard you're not attending, probably for the best. For the best. Naomi can't handle negativity right now. Negativity, ooh God. I stared at the message for a long time, then I typed one sentence. Congratulations, I hope your balance sheets are as stable as your guest list. He didn't reply, but he read it. Now here's where it gets interesting. The night before the wedding, a financial news alert hit my inbox. One of Carter's company lenders had filed a restructuring notice. Public, visible, ooh shit, timing is everything, and I had timing. I could have warned Naomi again. I could have stepped in, saved her, but remember what my mother said? Sometimes it's better to stay behind the scenes. So I did. I stayed behind the scenes and I watched. Wedding day. I wasn't in a hospital anymore, but I was still healing. And as I sat quietly in my recovery suite, coffee in hand, I opened social media. The venue was breathtaking, the guests glamorous, Naomi glowing, presentation perfect, until it wasn't. Because halfway through the reception, phones started buzzing. Financial blogs had picked up the restructuring notice. Guests were whispering. Investors were texting. Ooh God, Carter's father left early. Carter disappeared for 30 minutes. Naomi's smile began cracking at the edges. And I was watching in silence. Not celebrating, not gloating, just observing, because justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits. You know what's strange. When you're not physically present somewhere, but you can still feel the temperature changing. That's what that night felt like. I wasn't in the ballroom. I wasn't sitting at a table pretending to sip champagne. I wasn't smiling for staged photos. I was alone in a quiet suite, laptop open, hospital discharge bracelet still on my wrist. And I watched my sister's perfect wedding begin to split at the seams. Let me paint it for you. The ceremony itself went smoothly. Of course it did. Naomi had rehearsed her smile for months. Carter stood tall, polished, controlled. Their vows were short, safe, marketable. Ooh God, they look like royalty, someone commented on the live stream. Royalty with refinancing notices. The first crack didn't happen during the vows. It happened during cocktails, because that's when the phones started lighting up. At first it was subtle. One guest checking a screen, another whispering. A third stepping outside to take a call. I saw it through clips posted by guests. The camera panned across tables where conversations had shifted, no longer about love, but about liquidity. Oops. Markets itself as unstoppable, people notice. And investors, they don't wait for cake cutting. About 45 minutes into the reception, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, I let it ring, then it buzzed again and again. Finally, I answered. Allura, it was Carter. His voice didn't sound polished anymore. Did you see the news? I read financial filings regularly, I said calmly. Silence. Did you know about this? There it was, the shift, blame looking for a target. I knew your leverage ratios were unstable, I replied. But filings are your responsibility. Ooh shit, he exhaled sharply. You couldn't have warned Naomi, Ahan. Warn her. I had, multiple times. She called it negativity, he called it jealousy. Now suddenly I was supposed to be the emergency parachute. I wasn't invited, I reminded him softly. That hit harder than I expected, because he had no response. He hung up. Back at the reception, something else was happening. The groom's father had pulled 3 major investors aside, not discreetly, not quietly, publicly. Guests were watching a financial damage control meeting in the corner of the dance floor. Ooh God, Naomi noticed. Of course she did. She always noticed where attention went, and it wasn't on her anymore. Her bridesmaid later told someone, and yes, it made its way to me, that Naomi kept asking, why are people on their phones? Why aren't they dancing? Because the music doesn't drown out numbers, Naomi. Numbers are louder than violins. Who then came the speech? Carter's father stood to give a toast. He forced a smile, spoke about resilience and navigating storms together. Resilience? At a wedding, ooh shit, even guests caught the tension. One clip showed Naomi's smile faltering just slightly, just enough. That micro-expression, that was the moment. The moment she realized the narrative wasn't hers anymore. Now here's something interesting. During the reception, Naomi finally called me. FaceTime, I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her makeup was perfect. Her eyes were not. Alara, she whispered. Why didn't you tell me this was going public? Huuuh, I didn't know the timing, I said truthfully. But you knew there were issues? Yes. And you just let me walk into this? Ooh God, walk into this? She uninvited me from the room, from the family table, from the photos. But she wanted me to carry the warning anyway. I tried, I said calmly. You said I was intense. Her breathing got heavier. People are talking. Yes. I look stupid. There it was, not scared, not worried about financial stability, about looking stupid. Ahan. That's when I understood something fully. This wasn't about love for her, it was about optics, always optics. Huuuh, I need you here, she said suddenly. Oops, no apology, just need. For what? I asked. To explain it, to calm investors. You know how to talk to them? Ooh shit. Even in her crisis, I was still a tool, a fixer. I closed my eyes for a moment, then I said quietly, no. Silence, you're my sister. Yes, then act like it. I inhaled slowly. I was in a hospital bed when you finalized my replacement. Her face hardened. This isn't about that. It is, I replied, and I hung up. Now here's where karma gets interesting, because stress doesn't disappear when you ignore it. By the end of the night, multiple vendors had requested written confirmation of payment security. The venue manager had privately approached Carter's father. And Naomi, she left her own reception early. Official reason. Overwhelmed bride. Unofficial, the narrative was slipping, ooh God, and the internet smelled blood in the water. Comments started appearing. Is the company in trouble? Bad timing for a merger. Hope the prenup is solid. Huuuh, the prenup. That document I had read. That document Naomi barely skimmed. That document tying lifestyle guarantees to future shared assets. If Carter's family restructuring escalated, joint liabilities could surface. I knew it. Carter knew it. And now, so did the internet. 2 days after the wedding, the photos were posted. Perfect angles, perfect lighting, but the comment section? Brutal, not cruel, just curious. Curiosity destroys illusions faster than criticism. Ahan. Naomi called me again that week, this time without makeup, without bridal glow. I think Carter lied, she whispered. Huuuh, that's when I felt something shift again, not coldness, not satisfaction, clarity. You married a presentation, I said softly. She started crying. Are we going to be okay? I didn't answer immediately because here's the truth. I wasn't sure if she meant financially or emotionally, and that difference matters. Behind the scenes, more filings appeared, liquidity freezes, asset reevaluations, properties listed quietly for sale. Carter's confidence evaporated, and stress exposes cracks in relationships fast. Ooh shit. 3 weeks into marriage, they stopped posting together. 4 weeks in, Carter moved into his office temporarily. 6 weeks in, Naomi called me at 2 a.m. I think he married me for image. Huuuh, I almost laughed. Not cruelly, just ironically. Image married image, and reality showed up uninvited. But here's what Naomi didn't know yet. While all this unfolded, I had made a move of my own. A silent one. Because when you're removed from the table, sometimes you build your own, and I wasn't just watching anymore. I was preparing for exposure. preparing for truth, preparing for a kind of justice that doesn't scream but restructures everything. And what happened next? Ooh God, that's when the marriage didn't just crack, it split. There's a specific kind of silence that follows a celebration when everyone realizes the confetti was covering cracks. That's what the weeks after the wedding felt like. Quiet. Heavy, like the air before a storm that's already been forecasted, but nobody wanted to cancel the event. I wasn't in the hospital anymore. Physically, I was recovering. Emotionally, I was rebuilding something far more important than strength. Perspective, and while I was rebuilding quietly, Naomi's new life was unraveling loudly. 3 weeks after the wedding, Carter's family company officially announced strategic restructuring. That's corporate language for. We expanded too fast and now the numbers are angry. Properties were paused, projects delayed, investors reassessing. And Naomi, she had just posted honeymoon photos with captions like, "Forever starts now, ring sparkles, ooh God." Forever is a risky word when your foundation is floating. That's when she called me again, not crying this time, panicked. "Alora, can you look at something for me?" She sent me a PDF, the prenup. The one she insisted was standard. The one I told her to review carefully. The one she skimmed between dress fittings. Oops, I opened it, scrolled, read slowly. And there it was. Clause 14C, lifestyle maintenance liability. Translation: if shared marital expenses exceeded certain thresholds during company restructuring, both spouses could be responsible for maintaining obligations tied to jointly acquired assets. In simpler terms, if Carter's family assets froze and Naomi continued living at the same luxury level, she could become legally responsible for sustaining portions of it. Ooh shit. She had signed herself into financial exposure. Alera, she whispered over the phone, why would he include that? Because Naomi, he didn't just marry you, he merged with you, and mergers are about risk distribution. Here's what she didn't know. Carter's family had quietly used the wedding to signal stability. High-profile guest list. Lavish venue, luxury optics. It was a branding move. And when the restructuring notice hit right after, it didn't just shake investors. It exposed the illusion. Ooh God, Naomi wasn't just a bride, she was part of the optics strategy. And now, the optics were bleeding. 2 days later, Carter moved out temporarily. He said he needed space to focus on damage control. Naomi tried to play it off publicly. Busy season for both of us. But offline, she called me every night. Did he know? She asked once. Yes, I said calmly. How do you know? Because you don't draft liability clauses unless you anticipate risk. Silence, heavy, breathing uneven. Ooh God, she whispered. Now she was saying it, not me. Meanwhile, I was doing something else, something quiet. I had officially separated all prior financial transfers from my personal accounts. Every wedding payment, every loan, every floral enhancement billed through my consulting firm, documented, categorized, prepared. Because here's what most people don't understand. Revenge doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes it looks like paperwork. And then came the first real betrayal, not from Carter, from my mother, Ahan. One afternoon, I received an email from her. Subject line, "We need to be united." Inside, a scanned document. It was a written statement she had drafted without telling me, claiming that I had voluntarily funded Naomi's wedding as a gift, and that any financial reclassification now would be retaliatory and harmful to family reputation. Ooh shit. Harmful to reputation? Again, presentation over truth. She wanted me to sign it, to legally waive my right to reclassify funds. I stared at the screen for a long time, because that moment hurt more than the uninvite. More than the hospital, more than the seating chart. My own mother was trying to protect image over fairness. I called her. Why? I asked quietly. Alera, this is not the time to be difficult. Difficult. You're threatening your sister's stability. No, I was protecting my own. Did Naomi ask you to send this? No, she doesn't know. There it was, the director working behind the scenes again, trying to manage the narrative. I closed my eyes. I won't sign it. You're being selfish. Ooh God, there's that word again. Selfish. The word they use when you stop bleeding for them. That night I couldn't sleep, not because I doubted myself, but because I finally understood something clearly. I was never the quiet daughter. I was the stabilizer, the risk absorber, the emergency reserve. And when the system destabilized, they panicked, not because they loved me, but because the backup was refusing to activate. Huuuh, and that realization, it didn't make me angry, it made me powerful. 2 months into Naomi's marriage, the inevitable happened. Carter officially filed for separation. Reason: irreconcilable financial stress? Ooh shit, financial stress, not emotional, not personal, transactional. The same week a property under his family's holding company was liquidated at a loss. Investors exited, and Naomi, she was left holding half of a lifestyle she couldn't sustain alone. She called me the night she received the separation notice. "Alora, I think he planned this." "Yes, he used the wedding for leverage." "Yes. And now I'm exposed." "Yes." Who? For a long moment neither of us spoke. Then she said something that surprised me. "I'm sorry." Soft, small, not defensive, not dramatic, just honest. "Ooh God, that was new. I should have listened," she added. Yes, you should have. But growth doesn't happen when someone rescues you. It happens when consequences land. Now here's the part where things shift. Because while Naomi's marriage was dissolving, Carter's restructuring wasn't stabilizing. It was spiraling. And guess who had been quietly consulted by one of his company's secondary lenders? Me. Remember when I said I work in risk compliance? Reputation travels. Even when family erases you from guest lists. Ooh shit, the lender knew I had prior audit insight. They wanted perspective, professional perspective, not emotional, not sisterly, strategic. Who? And I had a choice. I could protect Carter out of residual loyalty, or I could tell the truth. I chose truth, not revenge, not exaggeration, documentation. Because when you remove someone from the table, don't be surprised when they testify from outside it. And what I revealed accelerated the investigation. Not fabricated, just illuminated. Overextension, misleading stability claims, asset overevaluation. Ooh God, the cracks widened. Naomi didn't know I had spoken to the lender. Not yet, but she would, because justice, it was aligning. Slowly, strategically, and the next move would change everything. Who? You see, people think revenge is loud, explosive, immediate, but the most devastating kind is patient, calculated, legally sound. And what I was about to do next wasn't about destroying anyone. It was about finalizing something. Balance. Who? You ever notice how quickly loyalty evaporates when money tightens? It doesn't disappear dramatically, it thins. Like cheap fabric stretched too far, that's what happened next. And this time, I wasn't watching from a hospital bed. I wasn't watching from a quiet suite. I was sitting in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows, a legal advisor beside me, and a folder labeled Independent Risk Assessment Carter Developments. Because once the lender initiated formal review proceedings, things moved fast. The first public report didn't look dramatic, it was a business article. Neutral tone. Structured language, concerns regarding liquidity management. Possible asset overevaluation, pending investor withdrawal. Ooh God, those words sound polite, but in financial circles they're alarm bells. Within 48 hours, 3 more outlets picked up the story, then industry blogs, then social platforms, and suddenly Naomi's wedding photos were being reposted next to headlines. Image versus reality. Huuuh presentation had officially collided with paperwork. That evening my mother called me, no greeting, no softness.